I
Hello.
warmly welcome you to our special session about Artemis II. And Artemis II is an ongoing United States spaceflight mission sending 4 astronauts on a flyby around the moon. It launched from Kennedy Space Center on April 1st, 2026. And the 10-day mission is crewed by NASA astronauts Wright Wiseman, Victor Glover, and Christina Koch, along with the Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen. It is the second flight of the Space Launch System, the first crewed mission of the Orion spacecraft, and the first crewed mission beyond low Earth orbit since Apollo 17 in December 1972. The Orion spacecraft is currently approaching the moon to perform the lunar flyby. And I would like to welcome our President Bernard Foing. Hello,
okay, so welcome to everybody on behalf of Space Renaissance International. We have with us a number of Space Renaissance International board members. We'll be joined also by a number of experts. So it's really a celebration for all of us that are space enthusiasts. It's a quite historical milestone, as no human crew has been that far to the moon since 1972. It's also for us, for Space Renaissance International, a great opportunity to show that this is an event for all, a Space Renaissance for all. It's an opportunity for all of us to promote space, be it space science, space technology, but also inspiration, the birth of the next phase of space economy, but as well space cooperation in peace and space education, inspiration, overall space renaissance. So I would like to also ask the different board members to share some information, as well some of their emotion, because it's of course a big emotional moment for all humanity. And after, we will share also a few presentation of information, latest news for our audience. And we'll look at a long event. I will give also at 7 p.m. CEST, that is 1 p.m. Eastern Time in the US, there will be the NASA live streams that will be coming on. So we will introduce you to some of this NASA live stream before, but I think it's good to have a bit of time for ourselves to reflect and to see how this event, Artemis II, kissing the moon on the far side, can inspire many follow-up action for our audience and for our community. So thank you very much, all of you.
Okay, thank you, Bernard. You have taken a lot from my introduction, so thank you for doing my work. I would like also to welcome Adriano Autino. He is one of our vice presidents and former president and one of the founders. Hello, Adriano.
Hi, Sabine.
Let me first welcome everyone, and then
hi,
you
everybody.
can talk.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome everybody here.
Yes.
People is joining, of course. We will have more people in this meeting. I want to say that, yeah, this is an historical week, let me say. This is not just a day. And today we will be ideally together with astronauts flying near the moon. Kissing the moon, as we said. Artemis II is kissing the moon today, and all humanity is doing that. I want to celebrate this thing and showing you a real preview, a very, very preview, because it's not public yet, but I will share it with you. Is an event that will happen next week. It will be a side event. And the 16th of April 2026 from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. in the conference room 3 in Vienna on the space, I think, SDG, Space for All on Earth and Beyond. The panel will be likely bigger than what we have now. These are the person that we have already, Dr. Gullinder, okay, Dr. Claire Nelson, Professor Sergio Marchisio, Sir John Martin Thomas from India, Antonio Stark from iSpace Japan, myself, and Bernard Foing. And we hope to have Arti Olamainen to chair the panel, and we're waiting for other person to join. Okay, so this will happen next week, 16th of April. We will live stream it on YouTube, and so all the people are already invited to follow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I also would like to welcome Marie-Louise Häuser. She is also one of our board members, and she is a philosopher, doctor of philosophy. Marie-Louise.
Yes, hello everybody. First of all, I want to congratulate the crew of the Artemis II project. This was is a great project with a lot of scientists and technicians and rocket engineers who are working on this project. And I know some from Bremen, where the service module was designed and produced. And I could see that last year it was a bit difficult with this Artemis project. And I'm very happy that this manned spaceship is now on the way to the moon. My own work, I have a short presentation, but I can now or later.
Later.
I can
We do later. We do later.
Later.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would like to introduce first our audience here.
Yes.
I also would.
Also my main work is for Space Renaissance International to look to the roots of Space Renaissance International in the Renaissance time, where the first philosophy of space flight was invented and created.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marie-Louise. And I also would like to welcome Joseph Pelton, Professor Joseph Pelton. He's also one of our board members, and I guess you are founder too of the SRI. And
no, I'm a vice president, but I'm...
And you are vice president, yeah. Can you make your audio a little bit louder? I cannot hear you well.
Well,
yes.
I'm trying to speak as loud as possible. The thing is, I have written many books on space safety, including of the Artemis program and the Orion vehicle and the human landing system. And I'm very pleased to see the program going so smoothly so far. I have been working with a number of members of SRI on a new book that's coming out on the future of living in space. And I see this event as the first step forward toward what could be accomplished in space and on the moon. In the book that's just coming out, we have one chapter on the possibility of creating a space station that could revolutionize the economics of putting mass into orbit. And the other one involves the possibility of creating a magnetic field for Mars. But the interesting thing is we could use the same technology to create a magnetic field for the moon and create an atmosphere for it as well, using the technology of a space elevator. So these are very long in the future, decades into the future. But it is interesting to see whether this is one of the key steps forward to realizing not only our going to space, but living in space, and whether we could create living environments on both Mars and the moon in coming decades.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I also would like to welcome Alberto Cavallo. He's also one of the vice chairs on board members, and he is a founder of SRI too. Alberto.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I am one of the founders, and the only one with Adriano who is still on the board. There are others that are still cooperating with us, but we are the only two that are still on the board. Yes, maybe this time there are many things that we could talk about, but after all, we think that this mission is very important, even if there are many aspects that could be discussed more deeply. But what's important now is that we are happy that we are going back to the moon after so many years. By the way, I remember that the first time I was interested in space, I was only 8-year-old at the time of the first lunar landing in 1969. And as an 8-year-old boy, I was always looking, watching the TV and wanting to be informed about the lunar landings. So I had to wait till now, when I am a retired person, to see again some people near the moon. But at least it happened.
When I was a child, I was in a school named Yuri Gagarin Oberschule. Yes, and though I was very early in contact with space, I also would like to welcome Walter Hammond. Maybe you want to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yes. So I'm a professor at University of Central Florida in the United States. I'm very much interested in space. I have almost a 50-year career working with rocket propulsion and space. And I'm very happy to be a member of Space Renaissance International. I hope to contribute some papers. And I wanted to say, I have a presentation on space station systems engineering. Adriano, I don't know, have I made that presentation available to the SRI or not? You're muted.
You have to unmute yourself, Adriano.
Yes. About the space station, Walter, you're asking me if we have your presentation on the space station. I think no. You made some other webinar for the Space Renaissance Academy, but not this one, I think.
Okay, I can send you the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, please.
Yes,
Okay.
we can do this.
Then we can show maybe a couple of slides from that. Or you can show it directly if you like.
Yes, but
Okay.
let me first introduce our guests here, and maybe Bernard will first talk about. But first, I would like to introduce also.
Let's introduce
Emily
everybody.
Sinclair. Hello, welcome, Emily. We met us in Paris. I hope you arrived good home.
Yeah.
Yes. May you may introduce yourself a little bit to our audience.
Yes, says my connection's unstable. Sorry, Sabine, what would you like me to do?
Pardon?
The connection's not very good. What would you like?
Okay.
Introduce yourself and
Make
your statement for history.
Me? Yeah, this has been a long time. Well, for me, I mean, since 2006. So, yeah, it's 20 years anyway. But I was always very hopeful. I thought there would be some way that we would generate this global society, this worldview, that it would actually happen. And that has been a long time coming. And since the information age started to mesh in, I was very hopeful that that would be possible. So I think it is. I think it's just a matter of policy orientation. And I'm very pleased that the Space Renaissance now has the program at the UN, I think will be immensely
Yes.
valuable. I'm very pleased about that.
Thank you so much, Emily. And I also would like to introduce myself. My name is Sabine Heinz. I'm an artist, former vice president of Space Renaissance. And now I'm vice chair from Itacus, and I'm still, or I'm back and doing our webinar series because it was my baby. And yeah. So, and we are very excited now. I hope we will get some more guests here
Yeah.
to talk about Artemis II. And I would like to give the word to Bernard Foing.
Yeah. Okay, before
to
that, are there other members that are pending, or how are we?
I hope so.
We
Yeah.
are waiting for Gary Barnard, Kate Rock,
Yes.
and yeah, Robert Katz also.
Yeah.
So
And
I
I
will
will,
send the WhatsApp messages to them.
Yeah,
to
because I
solicit.
see that we have sent some invitation for the YouTube channel, and then others are for the Zoom. I think after we have made a series of presentation, it will be good also to have an opportunity for young participants and others to join in, and so also to bridge towards the to bridge towards
Generational.
the NASA live stream. Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
So let's see how we do. Let me go back to the Zoom.
You have prepared something, no?
Yes. So I've prepared something, but for some reason, yeah. And so I prepared a little presentation, which is summarizing a bit some element of Artemis II. And I think that we could also ask some of the experts to complete. It's a general presentation, so let me share it.
Yeah, I think maybe Walter can say something, and maybe also Alberto.
Yeah, yes. Oh,
Yes,
Alberto,
yes.
yes, certainly. So, okay, here my presentation. Okay. I have a presentation in, and I'll. Do you see it now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Oh no! Oh, well, it's the wrong one. Sorry again. Space Renaissance. No. Oh, I reuse the previous presentation. Yes. So that's this one. Yeah. So I stop it. Yeah. So I had an event recently where we had actually an event about Artemis. We organized together with Frank Devine, the head of ESA astronaut. And so I have a presentation which I made about that. And, okay. And let's go back to my my presentation is here. And I prepared also something where I went to the website of NASA TV to see, okay, what is the status? Okay, let's give me 1 minute so that I find the right presentation, because I had several which are open. So let's see who else has entered the room. Okay, and now, oh. Yeah,
So
2 minutes.
if you need time,
Yeah,
Bernard,
just give me 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
yeah,
So that-
okay. In
yeah,
the same time, we can say something
yeah,
more.
yeah. Okay, exactly.
Yeah, about the discussion around the Artemis program, and yes, the utility to have a gateway or not to have a gateway.
Yeah, please.
I
Also.
think my opinion is that gateway is useful because it's important to start experimenting in the cislunar space, to have maybe something in L5 in some of the liberation point of Lagrange. And so I think it's important to have a station in that area, even if it is not a rotating station, so it is not useful from the point of view of simulated gravity. It would be very much better if it could, but is not yet. However, I think better than nothing to have a gateway in a lunar orbit or in the cislunar area is a useful thing. And it also will allow to experiment technologies for protection of life from radiation and solar flares and all these kind of things. And therefore, I don't think that the ones who want to trash it have a good arguments for their position. And also, what we are working on in our committees, technical committees, is a concept of space-to-space vehicles. Because everybody so far only think about vehicles taking off from Earth surface, reaching the moon or Mars, and landing on the moon or Mars, and so on. But that's not it's not a good concept, because it will be very much better to think about space-to-space vehicles assembled in orbit and only traveling in space, never landing on any planetary surface. That will be a very good advancement. And so I think that a gateway station around the moon is a useful thing, not to be trashed. And of course, all the progress from the Orion and this program that was very much criticized, being a remake of the Apollo and things like that. All of these points are valid discussion points, of course, and if we can have more advanced vehicles, it will be a real progress. Okay, but however, today.
I also would like, thank you, Adriano. I would like to welcome Gary Bernard. Hello, nice that you join us. And Bernard, are you ready? If not, I would like to share.
Yeah, yes. Let's introduce Gary because I had.
Gary.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself and say about something about Artemis, how excited you are?
I'm pleased to join the conversation. For those that may not be aware, I'm robotic space systems engineer by profession that's been extensively involved in helping to breathe life into what's become the International Space Station, and have been embroiled for more than 10 years in an earnest mission development. Activity predominantly on a commercial level, but trying to pursue things through all sectors. And for with respect to the Artemis, quite frankly, the idea that there are more paths than just being utterly dependent on mercurial billionaires to move forward, I think is a good thing. Governments can't necessarily do things particularly on an economic, much less in an entirely reasonable manner. But an awful lot of what we are involved with here in terms of trying to provide for the future that we would like to see come to pass is that in order for something to be possible, people need to think it possible. And it is the fact that we are a species that builds spaceships, to me, is extraordinary. And I welcome it, and look forward to seeing how we can make the best of it in terms of increasing our understanding across the board.
Excellent.
Thank you. So, Bernard, I
Good,
give you the
excellent.
floor.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Yes, as I try to include a number of information from the NASA website, and so I had multiple windows open. So I hope that now you get my views. You get my presentation?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I call it a Space Renaissance for All, Artemis II Kissing the Moon. And so it's a pleasure to share some information also that gives a historical but also a scientific perspective on this Artemis II event. So that was prepared for decades. And so I had also the pleasure to attend the Artemis I launch campaign. This was in 2022. But this time, I witnessed the launch from Europe, and we organized a number of events in Europe. So I wanted also to say we are going now to, together with the crew of Artemis II, see the far side of the moon. And this has not been done since 1972. The first time that this was done with human eyes was in 1968 at the opportunity of the Apollo 8 crew. So some 24 humans saw the far side of the moon with their eyes. But in our case, we saw it with the eyes of our babies. We built some robotic babies we sent to the moon. And the first of this millennium was in fact smart ones. So the baby from our team at European Space Agency at ESA, we launched in 2003. And then we went in recurrent orbit around the moon. But we were followed in 2007 by a Japanese mission, Kaguya, and a Chinese mission, Chang'e 1, that also went in a polar orbit. And then they could explore all the scenes on the moon. In 2000, later, so in 2008, we had the launch of a Chandrayaan-1 mission from India with various instruments, also 6 international instruments, a mission that looked in particular in this polar region and discovered the presence of water ice on the moon. And in 2009, we had the launch of the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter together with the L-Cross impactor that L-Cross was impacted in the polar region of the moon, Cabeus, near the South Pole, giving the proof that there was indeed water ice in the subsurface. And Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has been in operation since that time. So in the news, maybe we have some message, oh, we are suddenly going back to the moon. We have not waited for Artemis II to do it. We have started already with the launch of Smart 1 in 2003 to have a series of robotic missions that helped humanity as a whole to go to the moon. And also we have together with partners from all countries, not only government, but also agencies, industries, academia, also entrepreneurs. We have put together a roadmap for what could be the sustainable exploration and utilization of the moon, starting with some of these robotic probes that we launched around the moon, some landers forming a robotic village, and then to have some humans that can go around the moon and on the surface of the moon for short duration mission. So at the moment, in the US-led Artemis program, we are looking at a mission called Artemis IV that would go possibly in 2028, 2029, with 2 humans on the surface of the moon, first women on the moon. But in parallel, there is also the International Lunar Research Station, which is looking also to in place humans before the end of this decade. And after this short duration mission, we are looking at a long-term, permanent, sustainable series of bases on the surface of the moon. So this, we had this vision already some 30 years ago. We call it Moon Village Roadmap. But, you know, from vision to execution takes a lot of work. So you need all to put all the actors together, because if you have only the vision without execution, this is what we call hallucination. You know, that's a vision you have when you have a dream and you don't do anything about it. But what's important are the acts that we do as a community to realize some of our positive vision and to do it also for the benefit of the whole humanity and for our planet. Now, we have already contributed to the Artemis program, and this was with this little mission, Smart One, that we launched in 2003, that arrived in November 2004 to the moon. And then I will show we had our first glance of the pole of the moon and also of the far side of the moon, first time that Europe had their own image of the far side of the moon. And a bit like the view of the astronaut had just one day ago, they could see a bit the poles of the moon. And then we went around the moon, and for 1.5 years, we stayed around the moon. And we used this time around the moon to make a detailed maps of the south pole of the moon with high resolution from 300 kilometer distance. And this allowed us also to determine some areas of permanent shadow, also some areas where there could be some peak of eternal light. We found some near the South Pole, on the edge of the Shackleton crater. We found also some areas on the moon that could be very good site for landing of humans in the future mission, in particular for Artemis IV now, or for the International Lunar Research Station or other initiative. So at some time, this was the only map that we had of the South Pole, and we could monitor also during the seasonal variation, what was the illumination of these areas. But then from 2007, this was superseded by beautiful data obtained by Kaguya, by Chang'e, and then by Chandrayaan-1 and by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. So little reminiscence, you see, 12 November 2004, this was the exact time when our little probe entered into the sphere of influence of the moon, 60,000 kilometers from the moon. And this is what happened to the astronaut a few days ago. They left the main influence of the Earth and entered in the sphere of influence of the moon. They passed to this sphere, and there they had the opportunity to see a bit above the pole, and this gives you a view of the far side. As you know, the far side was never imaged before 1959. From Earth, we see only the near side of the moon. There are some libration that could see a bit on the edge, but the far side was never observed before the lunar missions from the Soviet that flew behind the surface of the moon with the robotic system, even with a few living systems. You know, sometimes we make the joke, who was the first to see the far side of the moon? Question to my audience. It was a worm, a Soviet worm, that they flew on this lunar mission. Okay, but not a human could see it before 1968, the Apollo 8 mission. And so here are some memories. So from 22 years ago, when our little robotic probe saw it, we made also then some images of landing site of the Apollo crew. Here, for instance, we can see on the top right an image of the Adriano. It's a lava river bed, which was selected as a landing site of the Apollo 15 missions. You know, where they had also a rover and they went on the edge of the rail. And lower left, you can see this mosaic of Smart One. And more recently, a very nice mission could even look inside the permanent shadow regions and some of the light which is reflected from the rim, and could see even the topography there. So these are some areas which would be amazing to explore with future human mission. So now we have Artemis. So from the engineering point of view, the Artemis mission, you have a launcher. Okay, for the first one, we use the Space Launch System, SLS, and also for Artemis II. It's a very powerful rocket, about 120 meters high, but very expensive. Each cost is more than $2 billion. And so this is compared to other rockets, very expensive. So now there are talks to have some alternative of these very heavy launchers for future mission to the moon. But it did its job. There was a number of episodes linked to the development of the launcher system. We had some leaks on the launch pad, some delay, which are common, but it did part its job. And now we add this the capsule Orion, a capsule which has a similar shape as the Mercury or Apollo return capsule, but bigger. Bigger so that it can fit for astronauts with a lot of space. And but this capsule, this capsule cannot go to the moon on its own. In addition to this heavy launcher, you add a power system, engine that injected it on its way, injection to the orbit towards the moon, trajectory towards the moon. But also, we have an element which is critical that is called the European Service Module. And Marie-Louise mentioned this as this was in large part manufactured by a consortium and then integrated in Bremen and in Germany. And this European Service Module is really a workhorse that provides electricity, propulsion, air and water to the astronaut. Also controls the temperature and controls as well the exact orientation to be able to navigate to the exact trajectory that is needed to go around the moon, but in particular on the way back to Earth to re-enter to the Earth, to inject the capsule with enough accuracy so that it will come re-enter safely in the Earth's atmosphere. Also, this European Service Module has solar arrays that were deployed and get maximum power. It has electronic equipment for communication, power, and control, and it connects, between the together with the Orion module and providing electricity, air, and water. So it's really a critical part of this program. It was done also using technology that was developed before for the so-called ATV, Automated Transfer Vehicle, a series of 5 vehicles that were developed by the European industry under the control of ESA. And this was docked 5 times to the International Space Station in the past. So you see the size of the module with the Orion capsule on the top and the connecting adapter and the European Service Module. So that was for the engineers. Clearly, it was quite a great challenge. And Europe, ESA, has provided this module for Artemis I, Artemis II, and they has even delivered the European Service Module for the next Artemis. So, back to recent events, we organized an Artemis II event in the frame of a general conference on space and Earth that actually took place in the Cannes Festival Palace, Palais des Festivals, very beautiful place where you can meet some movie stars, but in that case, it was some space stars like Frank Devine. He was the head of the astronaut and now is ISS International Space Station manager. And so we had a panel describing what Artemis program meant, and Artemis II even in particular. Now, the crew, it was mentioned by Sabine, so the crew with the commander, with the pilot, with the payload specialist, so Christina Koch and Jeremy Hansen from Canada, 2 payload specialists, but as well, Christina Koch is a veteran of space in terms of spacewalk and long duration flight. And Jeremy Hansen is really a beginner. It was his first flight. Wow. How lucky can you be for your first flight to go to the moon? But, and Christina will be the first woman to go so deep in space. As you know, we had 24 humans that went to the descent of the moon in the frame of the Apollo program. They were all men and white, actually. Here, a great message for humanity to have the other half of humanity represented, women and also men of color, also part of this expedition. So beautiful views of the rocket, and you see the rocket is huge, and you can see on the top the Orion capsule and the European Space Module, and on top also there is a kind of emergency rescue system in case of explosion. Very soon after the launch, you can rescue the astronaut. Beautiful landscape, and a very powerful rocket from the first launch I attended, also from the launch of Space Shuttle. You know that this is very noisy, even at a distance when you observe the launch from Cape Canaveral. And so the first stage, before you had a booster element that were attached on the side of the first stage, and they were detached successfully. And then the first stage, there was, and then a separation. And later, so a period in Earth orbit for checking the systems, and then trans-lunar trajectory injection. And then the solar panel deployed, and some very nice views of our own planet, of the Earth, and that was taken together with the spacecraft itself. And the commander also made a beautiful picture, which you can see here. Actually, this looks familiar. First, NASA, for some reason, showed us a picture which was upside down, so people didn't recognize what was what. And I said, yes, we can recognize easily Africa. You can recognize also the Iberic Peninsula, clearly. But also now you can see in the clouds, South America, you can recognize. Now you can notice something a bit strange on this image. It doesn't look like the blue marble image that some of the previous Apollo astronauts took. Because when you look at the coast, you see some lights. So what are those lights? In fact, this image was obtained not with the Earth illuminated by the sun. The sun is behind the Earth on this image. And so this is an image of the Earth at night. And the only reason why we see some light on it is because the Earth is illuminated by the moonshine. And we were almost near full moon. So enough light to illuminate the Earth. And you can see also a bit on the top at 11 o'clock, Venus. You can see stars. You can see on the poles some green lights. These are auroral light on both poles, because often when you have some auroral events, it affects both poles because you have some particles coming from the sun that goes in both poles. And so you see some night light of the coastal areas. You can also see between the Earth and Venus, you can see a bit some light. This is, in fact, what astronomers call zodiacal light. These are a light scattered by dust that is in the ecliptic plane of the sun. So very special image, but that will certainly become very iconic and obtain okay with a nice DSLR camera. So what's next? So you can see the different steps on the Artemis II milestones. So the launch, that's number one, and then there was some separation. There was some release of the rocket boosters, separation, cutoff of the main stage, raising the perigee, and then apogee raise also to high Earth orbit, and separation of the Orion system from the cryogenic propulsion stage, and then upper stage separation, perigee burn, that's 7, and then transit to the moon. That's we can see in number 10, and then arriving between 10 and 11, where you enter in the sphere of influence of the moon, and on 11 you have the flyby of the moon. This flyby is a so-called free return trajectory, which was also used at the time of Apollo. So this was the default orbit in case of anomaly where you could return automatically with this flyby to the moon. So actually it was partly used when the Apollo astronaut went to the moon. They had to go in a lower altitude than this free return trajectory. So for instance, Apollo 13 was targeted to go to the moon. Then they had this anomaly, and they were already in an orbit targeting to go lower to the surface of the moon, but then they raised again their orbit to go back to this free return trajectory. And as you know, Apollo 8 as well as a similar return trajectory. And so now when the spacecraft will be on the far side for this flyby at the position 11, for this time, it will be at a distance further than any human spacecraft has been from Earth. It will be at a distance of 406,000 kilometers. You know, the average distance of Earth to the moon is about 385,000 kilometers. So this is 406,000 kilometers. The record was by Apollo 13 at 400,000 kilometers. So they are going to beat the Apollo 13 record. And this will happen at 1 hour 46 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 7:46 our time CEST. So this is the profile of Artemis II, but Artemis is a program, and we are looking to have a long-term program that will lead to a sustainable lunar architecture with a number of missions. So mission, there is a focus now from the US side to have mission that will emplace a lunar base. But Artemis program has been also affected, has been accelerated to allow in Artemis 4 to have a human on the surface of the moon. And this requires to have a rendezvous in orbit of some of the human landing vehicles together with Orion and European Service Module. And so actually, this will be accelerated in a sense that there will be an Artemis 3 mission, a new name, that will check this rendezvous in orbit around the Earth first. And then we'll have Artemis 4, where they will do this. They will bring this human lander and to around the moon. But as well, this leads to some hard choice. So acceleration of the program, some injection of an additional $2 billion in the program following presidential direct executive order requesting to have this American on the surface of the moon by 2029. And this allowed to release an accelerated program and also more funding to NASA. And this is implemented by NASA under the leadership of the NASA leader, Isaac Gerinman. Now, also, the new views is that there will be some focus on activities on the surface of the moon. This is done a bit at the expense of a big project that has been developed in collaboration with a number of international partners, in particular European Space Agency and Japan, worked on the Gateway, so a mini space station around the moon on a very loose orbit. But this request to have a launcher which is upgraded compared to the SLS, and the cost at the moment is not affordable. So the Lunar Gateway is at the moment on pause, but we look at ways to implement it, as the Lunar Gateway was also a way to test some technology towards deep space habitation and also towards Mars. But now there's a strong focus on a sustainable lunar architecture on the surface that will include crew landing services, lunar terrain vehicle, pressurized rover. This is to be contributed one by the Japanese and another by US industry, some nuclear power, some in-situ resource utilization, and series of surface habitat. So clearly there are a number of challenges for this Moon Village.
Das ist eine Live-Veranstaltung jetzt hier.
Implementation.
Ja.
Hello, guten Morgen, Ralf.
Sagen wir was.
Yes, yes. So I'm finishing this presentation on, and what can we do ourselves? So on the Space Renaissance side, we have a number of committees that looked at all multidimensional aspects of what will be the expansion of humanity in space, in particular civilian humanity. And so, but there are a number of technical challenges getting there with a proper rocket landing system, also communication, operation in extreme environment, survival of system and of astronaut, mobility as well, partnership between humans and robots, using resources, living off the land, and involving users from new space, but also from terrestrial company and from the whole ecosystem. And for this reason, we have already started to test some of the system in a terrestrial environment. In particular, together with Hank Rogers, that may join us later. Hank Rogers, the founder of the Tetris game, and that invested to build this habitat of the International Moon-Based Alliance, ICES, in Hawaii, where we have done simulation since 2015 for mission to the moon and Mars. Here I'm training some of my geology students to learn to do what the Artemis IV astronaut will do, picking some sample, analyzing them, documenting in situ, and then bringing them back in the lab and to Earth. We have also actually done a mission right after a gigantic eruption that took place there. And after COVID, I went to this moon base with Hank Rogers. You can see him on the left. I was the chief scientist, and we had also some architect with us, some psychologist. We had Celia, our space psychologist. We had Serena Croti, a young space designer from Poly Milano that designed actually a mobile habitat that after we have used together with Space Renaissance and EuroMoonMars. So we also can train you for a future mission to the moon. For this, we collaborate with the Analog Astronaut Training Center, AATC, and we have some analog astronauts here in the room. So I was there, but also Sabine Heinz, I've been there. Gulin, Dede has been there as well, simulating what would be a mission to the Gateway. We had a number of young Space Renaissance International members, and we can also mix those with all generation, all discipline. We mix also the countries. You can see some Spanish, some Irish there, engineers. We had access to a very nice facility, and we conducted more than 25 missions of 1 week of full isolation. 1 week is about the duration of this Artemis II mission, and so you could also simulate some mission to Gateway or to the surface of the moon. We have a laboratory, we have a social area, we have, of course, sleeping area and gym and hygienic facility. We have a toilet that works. As you know, on Artemis II, they had a little problem with the toilet, not enough water there, and some part of it got frozen, but they fixed it. You know, it's also a great challenge for engineers. So we had also medical experts that went into our campaign, some medical doctor or students from Padova Medical School. They tried some emergency procedures, some analysis of samples of physiology. And this is a way also we learn how it would be to live to the moon. And I would like to invite all my colleagues from Space Renaissance in parallel to their thinking experience or to their own professional career to also share the experience of living in a crew and to add credibility to our Space Renaissance theme, which is that everybody should be able to go to space. So we even simulated Artemis III, or we put the first women on the moon. This was Clara Laforêt, together with engineer Matthew Harvey. We logged them for 6.5 days in this moon habitat, and they work together with the rovers, with psychology, virtual reality, and they even simulated 3 days of solar storm and blackout, and learned there a lot. Now we wanted, in a collaboration between LUNEX EuroMoonMars, but also some funding from the European Commission, and also the support of Space Renaissance International, we developed a mobile lunar laboratory that can go from place to place in Europe to start with, and where you can accommodate 4 astronauts at the same time. And this was designed actually by Serena Croti, so our master space architect, and I hired her after to build it, to install this habitat, and we brought it at various places. We brought it to Padova, a botanical garden for Padova Science Festival. Together with Adriano, we brought it to Paris Science Week. Then we put it in various places in the Netherlands, and you can rent it for some activities where we can bring it to your university or your cities. So actually, we put it also outside of Business Innovation Center. This is in close to ESTEC, and not only we have a laboratory, but we have an inflatable structure that makes it 3 times bigger, where you can conduct additional activities, some gym, and also some outreach activities for schools or for public. Now, all what you do is clearly Space Renaissance is very much supporting this initiative of human expression into space. And as Adriano mentioned, we have also developed a movement of space for all as a sustainable development goal, SDG 18. Adriano mentioned that we'll have side events at the United Nations COPIOS, Committee for Peaceful Use of Outer Space, in particular for the legal committee. This will be next week on the 16th of April. and we are making the case of declaring space as a sustainable development goals, and to go much further in the execution of some of the 17 other sustainable development goals. But I think that we should, after, give the floor to some of SRI members that will develop this aspect. One activity also which came out of a recommendation of our Space Renaissance Congress on 2021 is that we have to develop special action for young people, special action for diversity, but also for art. And building on initiative we started some 15 years ago, EuroMoonMars, or Itacus, where we have here with us the Vice Chair of Itacus, Sabine Heinz. We have developed a project called Space Renaissance for All Gallery, where we made a call for contribution to put on a payload that we launched on 23rd of June, on a tray used before for exobiology, but we put some sample from various continents of Earth, some meteorites, some seeds, but also more than 25 artworks. And you can see also some artwork were sculptures, like some, but we had some paintings from Sabine or from Daniel Fitzeler. We had various beautiful artifacts and some collaboration with the Moon Gallery, with the Moon Mars Museum, and with Art for Earth Observation. And in addition, we wanted to pay tribute to the stakeholders of space, the United Nations, but also the various space agencies, ESA, NASA, and COSPAR, IF, and some of the universities and other groups with whom we are working. So I would like to end with, today is a big event, but there will be also a number of opportunities that we will have to go promote further exploration and space for all. We had a number of events last year, but we have the event in Vienna, the UN. We'll have a European Geoscience Union also beginning of May, some event in the US, also International Moon Day that we will celebrate, and the day will last from July to October. We plenty of celebration. We'll have a COSPAR Space Research Assembly in Florence, in Italy, in August. We have International Astronomical Congress in Antalya, Turkey. We are going to host also a planetary European conference in The Hague, so you are all welcome to join in. So there is a lot of opportunities for us to promote space renaissance for all, be it space science, space technology, space economy, space for kids, space for peace, space for art, space renaissance for all. Okay. So that was my contribution. Later, we can have some time to discuss what is happening from 7:30 p.m. CEST, the NASA timeline. But I think that now we would like to focus on some messages from our board members, from our experts, from our Space Renaissance community. Thank you very much for listening to that, and I hope it gives you a bit the perspective of what it could mean as an opportunity for us to get further into Space Renaissance for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard, for this interesting introduction. In the meanwhile, we have more guests here. I would like to welcome Eliga Zadeh. Hello. And Frank White. And some guests disappeared now.
It's a rotation.
They have been here recently. I cannot see them. Adriano, they are out now? No. Frank White, I cannot see you. And we have Ralph Heckel, live from Stennis Space Center. Yeah, I would like to give you the floor for a moment, Ralph. I would like to ask no more longer than 10 minutes for the next speakers. Yeah, Ralph, introduce yourself, and I would like to talk to you about the launch, because you have been there with your crew. Yeah, I give you the floor. You may share the screen and talk.
Okay, short check. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we hear you very
Okay,
well.
yeah. So my name is Ralf Heckel. I'm the director of the International Space Education Institute, what is located in Leipzig. And
Just
we
a
are
second.
existing now since 20 years.
Just a second, Adriano, can you put him as speaker in the Ansicht and in the view? That we see him bigger.
We are in the speaker view, so
Yeah, okay.
someone
das
speak,
to say
it
you.
become
Okay.
big.
Okay, thank you. Good. Yeah, Ralf. Okay. You go on.
So, okay. Did you hear me? My introduction?
Yes.
Okay, so International Space Education Institute is existing since 21 years now, and I have some guests with myself. This is
Jeslo.
Paula, how to speak?
I'm 12 years old and I am the son.
Okay, and then here?
My name is Cosma. I am 19 years old and we all witnessed the Artemis II launch from only 5-kilometer distance.
So 5-kilometer distance, everybody from you who knows that, this is the Banana Creek viewing area where the VIP guests are sitting, the astronauts' families, and the astronauts also we witnessed it or we met. Astronaut Amelie.
Amelie Schönewald, she is the reserve astronaut from Germany.
So, and she is working for ESA now. Backup astronaut, yes. So it was a half-year work to get a place to there, thanks to Jessica van Puttkammer and his colleagues from NASA headquarters, so that we were attended this. Next to the chief from the Orion capsule in Bremen, from Airbus, and next to all the American visitors. So this was the quickest launch what we saw since Artemis I. There we traveled 2 times for 4 attempts to Kennedy Space Center. Now we had only 1 travel, and the first attempt was successful. As we went to that place, the streets are full, 1 billion guests around the Space Coast. All streets are very seriously busy. We had our boarding in the regional airport of Titusville with all these VIP guests in our buses. In the morning of the 1st of April, it was raining cats and dogs, how the American says. And so we were not believing if this launch will be possible. But as we stuck in the traffic jam with our bus for 2 hours, heading forward to the Kennedy Space Center, the sky became clear, the sun came out, and the rain was stopping. And so as we came to the visit area, the whole sky was nice. The Artemis was gleaming and glowing on the horizon, very close to us. And the party and the noises were so happy on this place that everyone believed now we will have a launch. At
some pictures?
2 hours and 25, we were invited to take a live broadcast with NASA TV. And some questions to Cosma. How was it?
Well, it was very surprising that we had the broadcast so spontaneously, but still it was very nice when we had the interview and we looked at the camera answering the questions of the women. Behind the cameraman was a very big screen where the whole live stream was showed on, and we could actually see ourselves on the live stream being interviewed at the same time, which was quite a cool experience.
Yeah, it is. So in this time, we realized that we are one of the less Germans on this tribune. So we only met Amelie and the kids of the leader of the Artemis or Orion Service capsule at Bremen. And this was the one and only German noise there. But we had with us 11 guests from all the country or all the world, so also from Asia, from Europe, from South America. So these are our alumni from our institution who are still working in the space business as training astronauts, as pilots, or as space engineers. Tour in the USA now. Here is the space flight. And as the countdown became minus 10 minutes, Jesco, was what then?
I was excited. I don't know. It was cool to see the star from the Artemis.
Did you see that the countdown was stopping in this time?
Yeah, the countdown was stopping for 10 minutes. It was on 10 minutes to check all the systems that are perfectly. So
Yes. So his heart was beating, and I had my cameras there with a very huge focus. And then came the loudspeaker, and he says to us that the live link has a relay of 30 seconds. So we should pay attention for this countdown, because when the countdown will count down to 0, then the rocket is still off the pad. 30 seconds relay. So that means we need to calculate forward by minus 30 seconds will be the launch, and this came exactly. Firstly, the big water steam clouds on the side, then you see a flash of the ignition of the solid rocket boosters, and then you see the light there, and the rocket still goes very fast up. As she clears the tower, she had more than 100 kilometers per hour, and she climbed and climbed and climbed. And as you can hold your hand between the launch pad and the rocket, then came the sound, very loud. So this is the sound what we know from the shuttle launches, from Artemis II, this one, and also from the Starship launches what we visited. But today there was a difference. Thousands of people cry in the background because 4 people sit inside of the capsule, and this was never before since around about 15 years as the last space shuttle launched, that people are inside. And so the emotions on the tribune are open for everyone. A cry, and the difference also, everyone saw this launch through his cell phone. You can't see any face. When you turn around your view around the tribune, you see a lot of cell phones, like on a Michael Jackson concert. And everyone want to catch this
And do you have
launch.
some photos? Do you have
Yeah,
some
we have.
photos you can share with us now?
No, we have the cell phone. May Cosma test it if it is working. Maybe a launch video or so. So you must give us the permission to share our screen.
Yes.
Is it still? Do we
Can
have
you,
it?
I think you can share.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can do it.
okay, let me check. 1 second. Have to share.
In the meanwhile, I can tell that I know them since many, many years when they were little childs, and it's so nice, and so I'm so proud of you that you have developed in this way. I wanted to ask Cosma if you want to become an astronaut.
Yes. So first of all, I couldn't find the option to share screen now, but to answer your question,
You have
yes,
videos
indeed.
from us.
We have some videos uploaded on our Instagram account called Robernauts, as well on Facebook. But we can also send them by WhatsApp.
Can you put this, Adriano von Robernaut? Adriano?
Spell it. Robernaut is R-O-V. Dreh dich mal rum. Ja.
Robernaut. Da.
So.
Hier.
So here.
Robernaut. Adriano, maybe you can take it from Instagram? You have Instagram on your...
I don't know.
I sent it to you on WhatsApp. You need to share only WhatsApp web video. That's why I sent it to you.
Yeah, I have not WhatsApp in my computer. This is the problem.
Because we have only the cell phone here, and there is the option not possible.
But Adriano is very technical, yeah. specialized.
yeah,
And
and
I think maybe he will find a way to share it from Instagram, a video from the, Cosma, you wanted to tell us, you want to become an astronaut, and you are studying now, or you finished just your high school, no? And you are starting to study now?
Okay, so to answer your question, I want to become an astronaut. That's my further goal. Receiving that goal, I already wrote a term paper about women in space because I was very interested into the question: what do women in space? How do they manage their menstruation? Are kids able to be made in space? If we take a look at our further missions to Moon or Mars or to exoplanets. But besides of that, to answer your question, what am I doing now? I am doing a dual apprenticeship next to my A level. That means instead of finishing my high school at the 12th grade, receiving my A level to study everywhere, I'm doing the apprenticeship for being an industrial mechanic, and my A level at the same time, which takes a little bit longer than normal, but overall it's shorter if I would do both, but after each other. I'll be finished in 2027 with both of them, and then I am able to study everywhere and already am an industrial mechanic.
Very good.
Excellent. If you want to join us, analog astronaut.
Yes, I wanted to suggest this. Bernard, offer you this.
Yeah, we have a program for analog astronaut. So we have access to a moon base in Poland, and so that we are looking for volunteers to join some crew. We have also very young professional, and there are some experience where you can be from 6 to 12. And now we have a beautiful video. That's you? Oh, yeah, excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a video of us explaining what the building next to the launch pad is. It's the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building. But in the video afterwards, you can see the rocket launching.
This is Valeria Zafra from Mexico. She works now as an engineer in California, as a space engineer. Here you see the video from the Gantry 39. This is viewing point by Launchpad 39, where the SpaceX and the Artemis are on. Launchpad A and Launchpad B. This is Launchpad B with the Artemis on it. One day before launch, our logo. And here you see Jesko and Cosma and Valeria making jokes about this launch, because it's were amazing 3 days at the Kennedy Space Center before launch the rocket. So yeah, and they get a lot of views on this Instagram account. They make it totally by themselves. And Bernard, as you told us about the possibility of the moon base in Poland, one of my former students, she is now an alumni, was there. Jacqueline Josanne, she made a training in 2020, I believe. Then I get her into the Institute of Biomedical Problems in Moscow, but this was then skipped because of the war. Unfortunately, I know the people very well in Moscow and in the EMBP and the MAI, and today I communicated also with the grandson of Sergei Korolev. But in the moment there is no way to go to Moscow and back. So,
so before that, you are welcome to come to the Netherlands, where I have shown we have this mobile laboratory, so we can show it to you. You can spend also a few nights there, but it's mostly focused on running experiments. And then we can also organize for you to go to the Analog Astronaut Training Center. We have a number of slots that are possible. In particular, I will have a number of students from international space universities. They will do a campaign from 11 to 19 of July. But also we are looking at so let's say high school contingent. There is a possibility that is organized. We have also a number of analog astronauts here. So we have Sabine, Maria as well has been there. And we have been joined also by our long-term friend, Frank White and Eliga Zadeh. So it will be also good to
Okay.
have their perspective. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would-
Sabine, you are allowed to share the contacts with myself and him.
Yes,
Cosma
certainly.
is the best moon buggy pilot or NASA rover pilots of
I put
Europe.
you,
Yeah,
I
excellent.
put you, I put you in
Since 20
contact
years.
via WhatsApp. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Also, you
Since
can.
20 years, he attends
can-
the NASA Rover Challenge at
Yeah.
Huntsville, Alabama, with more than 26 teams. This is
Wow.
the new engineer who made Artemis II rockets by 3D print and CAD by himself. So, and I know that in the near of Katowice is also the European Rover Challenge by remote-controlled rovers. And I really want to work with them together to rebuild this in Europe too, what we are doing with human-powered rovers.
This young Artemis generation is amazing. So now the world belongs to them. Yes.
Yes, the analog astronaut mission sounds very, very interesting, and I would be very interested into as well.
Okay.
Yes,
I'll
we
let you
will
my
arrange
email.
for
Yeah,
this.
very good.
I thank you very much for being here, and we will. I will send you immediately the email from Bernard, and we get in touch together. And it's very interesting, and I think you belong to this analog astronaut training center. I have been there, and here I showed you the picture already, and it was very, very interesting. Thank you for being here with us. I would like to welcome Frank White. I welcomed you already, but you
Yes.
disappeared.
He went to the
I
moon.
also would like to welcome Maria and Eliga Zadeh. Now I would like to give the floor to Walter Hammond. And
Oh, yeah.
he will
But
give a
before, could we have
presentation.
just like a 30-second statement from Frank, from Ediga,
Okay,
for
okay,
history? Yes, for our
okay,
history book.
okay.
thank
You're
you.
right. Sorry.
Yeah.
One second, Sabine, you are
Yeah.
knowing in 1.5 hours we have the flyby around the moon.
Yes. So
Okay.
I prepared a timeline of what will be the event. So yes, exactly. The NASA TV live stream will start at in 1 hour exactly, and then there will be at 1:46 p.m. their time. So that's 7:46 CEST. There will be the record broken of the longest distance to Earth from a crew, and they will break the record of Apollo 13, and then they will go 4,000 kilometers, no, 6,000 kilometers beyond the 400,000 kilometer limit that the Apollo 13 astronaut did. And then there will be a period with a loss of communication with Earth. And then later there will be a period where the crew will enter into the shadow, and so they will see a kind of eclipse of the sun by the moon, and then they will be reappearing. So we will follow that later this timeline. At the end of our event, we will remind you what will be the timeline of what you can follow offline after we finish this Space Renaissance briefing event. So
Yes.
the word to Frank now. Huh? Yeah.
Ralf, I would like, I sent you an WhatsApp, and I would like to invite you to stay with us until the end and see the live stream. And now, Frank, maybe you would like to introduce yourself a little bit, 30 seconds. And if you have prepared some slides, I would like to give you the floor later on to give a short presentation in case you prepared something. Okay, I give you the floor now for 30 seconds for introducing yourself.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Frank White. I am the author of The Overview Effect, Space Exploration and Human Evolution. The most powerful evocation of the overview effect is the image behind me, and it has lasted for over 50 years. My understanding is that the Artemis II astronauts are going to try to reproduce and create a second Earthrise today, which is terrific. And I'll just leave it there. But there is a lot to say about this mission. It's very important.
Thank you. Eliga Zadeh. Can you hear us? Can you show you? May you introduce yourself? Yeah, hello. You have to unmute yourself. Yes.
Hello, no, thank you for the invite. Yeah. Yeah, I'm Eligar Sadet. Yeah, I've been
This is Artemis Mission Control, and what a view of our moon.
oh,
This captured from one of the
one
cameras
second
on
here. I have my
Orion's solar array.
NASA live feed
Continue
going
to
on here.
get
So.
closer and closer to our lunar neighbor. The crew are in their post-sleep period, able to...
Let me pause that 1 second. Okay.
Yeah?
No, thank you for the the opportunity here to give some comments. No, I think this is very profound. You know, I got thinking, you know, this exact mission was done 60 years ago almost with Apollo 8 in 1968 when we had the first Earthrise image in real time as viewed by humans, as Frank White mentioned. And I think it's very profound. And I just wanted to speak to a couple of things. You know, one is I think we don't want to underestimate the profoundness of the Earthrise image. I've talked about this in a TED Talk as well. But I think it has profound implications for us as a human species when we think about becoming a spacefaring civilization. And what does that mean? And in that context, you know, I think the Earthrise image is quite profound. You know, I think it has also cultural, social, philosophical, spiritual aspects associated with it, but also tied to science and the whole idea that we're interconnected human species. You know, as Carl Sagan remarked, the pale blue dot, you know, we're one species that's interconnected with the cosmos. And I think in the context of Artemis, it's important to remember that, yes, it's about exploration and science and advancing us as a human species. But I think there's some other interesting aspects associated with it, particularly tied to our future as a human species and where we're going as a human species. And I've spoken some about this, and we'll speak more at the Space Renaissance Congress coming up in the summer. But beyond exploration and science and the technology to enable all that, which is you know, very impressive in and of itself, and Bernard Foing spoke quite eloquently about that at the beginning. You know, it's also about what's going to be our governance structure in that domain. So we think about cislunar space. It's about the governance and what are going to be the rules of the road. How are we going to govern ourselves in that environment, hopefully for peaceful uses and not going down a path of more militarization or weaponization of that domain. And I think that then there's the other interesting aspect of the resource utilization that's going to begin on the lunar surface. And how is the resource utilization going to enable further exploration of the cosmos? I think the lunar surface can be a testing ground for that, can become an enabling point for human missions to Mars in the future. But I think also resource utilization in the context not just of a permanent presence on the lunar surface and how we could be supported by in situ resource utilization, but also I think resource utilization relative to planet Earth and how we can begin to make use of the abundance of resources in outer space to benefit planet Earth directly. And I think that can help us address some of our problems of sustainability on this planet. So I think in many ways, it's very profound in terms of what we're doing and what we're beginning to engage in. And I think that point needs to be made by all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also would like to welcome Maria. Maria, are you there? Okay. Yeah, hello. Can you show you?
No, I can't. I'm twerking. How are you?
Okay.
I put my video, sorry.
Okay.
Yes, Sabine, tell me.
I wanted to say nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice
Because
to
we
see
met
you
in
too.
Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice that you are here, and I hope you enjoy our
Definitely.
event. And I would like to give the floor to Walter Hammond. He has prepared a presentation on space station system engineering. And yeah, Walter, I give you the floor.
Okay, thank you, Sabine. I'm going to try to make this short because I know that we've been here already a long time. So I have I'll try to keep this maybe to 15, 20 minutes. So
yeah, 10 minutes would be great because after we have to move to the other live stream event. 10
I'm
minutes.
only going to, yes, thank you, Bernard.
Thank you.
So I wanted to first of all give credit to Werner for the multi-purpose space cruiser illustration. I added the propulsion system that you see on the left-hand side. This is the multi-purpose space cruiser going around the moon and
Can you put it in full screen?
going to Mars. Pardon me?
Can you put it in full screen?
Oh, all right. Well, let's see. Well, if I go to presentation mode, that's not good. Let me go back and make. Is that better? How's that?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. So there you see the multi-purpose space cruiser. So, and then the other credit, Werner Grandel helped with this. Also give credit to Adriano, who did some of the new space versus old space slides. So I'm going to rapidly step through this. The flavor of my talk was to talk about the life cycle process, system engineering. I'm going to make these slides available to the SRI so you can take your time and look at these. But what I wanted to show here is that commercial space stations are going to be built rapidly. They're going to use lean engineering, and I look forward really to the presentation later today by Isaac Arthur on building and living in space, because that's very important. This is a quick overview of the different types of processes in the life cycle. I highlight the one in red. That's because the commercial space, they operate a lot faster and do things better, well, actually faster, more efficiently than the traditional government or NASA even does their major programs. Here's another view of life cycle. DevOps, DevSecOps is defined on the bottom of the screen. And so in the top of the screen, you see concept development, production, utilization, support, retirement. These will happen fast. So here's a depiction of the SecDevOps process. It's used by systems engineers to rapidly code, rapidly build, release. And you notice continuous delivery there because this is a continuous process. This cycle goes on and on and on during the deployment and the continuous development of systems. This is credit to Adriano. Probably you're familiar with this, or are you? I guess you are. Agile system engineering is defined there, lean engineering. So in this presentation to the International Council of Systems Engineers, I describe about model-based systems engineering. That's what they use to develop models. They use a thing called digital twin, which is a digitized, simulated version of the article under development. It's very high fidelity. It does the same things, operates the same way as the actual article, and that's called digital twin because it's a twin of the real article. They use a digital thread to connect the digital twin to the actual article that's under development. So they call that the digital thread. Lean engineering, of course, is how you rapidly develop these. This defines the digital twin. I'm not going to go through all of these. There's, the visual management, the technical performance measures on the bottom. There's just the diagnostic tools, operational tools, and monitoring tools that systems engineers use. System engineers cooperate with all the other disciplines to develop the whole the whole item. It involves a team approach and like that. Here's another depiction from Adriano. I thank you for these slides. I think this is from your side.
Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you very much.
Traditional space, that's old space. I've been in old space for most of my career. This is how it's done. Main contractor support a space agency. It's public money. It's full government control over space. They're subcontractors that operate under government funding. What is changing now is that the stakeholders, it's private investors. It's space products and services developed and operated or put into operation by commercial companies, which is a plus. Now, I wanted to say here that the building and living in space with Isaac Arthur, that's a presentation we'll see later tonight. One problem I see that I hope he addresses is how do you, if you have a bunch of things in space and you're putting them down to Earth, how do you provide a conveyor belt or a continuous process to have them used on Earth? And I think the answer is that you don't. I think you're going to develop them and use them in space for supplies in space, and the Earth will over time become a green space for humanity. There's old space versus new space. That shows how it's funded by public money. Now it's private financing. There's a profit incentive. One of the reasons why new space is being so slow to develop is because it's a big hill to climb to have a positive return on investment, or ROI. It takes a lot of money to develop space settlements, to get a moon base going. And that relies on government funding, and it will only be later when we become independent of governments and have a faster and cheaper access to space. As this snowball effect happens, a snowball rolls down the hill and gets bigger and bigger. It gathers momentum, and that's what I think we're going to see in the new space arena. This old space, another depiction. We did a lot of experiments. I participated in some experiments on the International Space Station, and they were funded by the government with the government setting objectives. In the future, you're going to have industry doing things shown on the right side of the screen. Earth jobs will expand into space jobs. There'll be a collaboration. There'll be space tourism that we haven't seen yet, and using assets and resources that are already in space. This continues. This shows you, I think the Earth orbit transportation cost is going to go downhill. It's not down to $100 per kilogram yet, but it's certainly below $1,500. I'd say it's probably right now it's $700 per kilogram with the Starship and these major launch systems developed by the private sector. The access to space, the space shuttle was very costly. We had 3 disasters. From 135 flights on the space shuttle, we had two disasters, and that's a probability of success of 98.5% in every mission. The astronauts live with that. They understood the risk. The Artemis II astronauts right now understand the risk that's being minimized with the best engineering possible. The cost of a satellite launch, it was well over 200 million. Now it's 50 million. Some years ago, probably 5 years ago, the Space Starship Heavy, the Falcon Heavy, could launch things for $62 million for the whole launch. That used the whole entire payload capacity of Starship Heavy. That's gone down now, and I see it going down further. This just shows how the decreasing costs, if you see on the lower right of the screen, SpaceX and Starship in the future are going to greatly lower the cost to around the $200 per kilogram. Right now, they're up around, like I said, 700, and it's going down. Past space stations. This is some space station. I rapidly go through these. You can look these up in Google. These are Soviet Almaz military space stations. They put into orbit in the late 1960s. or mid-60s to 1970s. They had the military space station. They wanted to militarize space, control space. And some of them, I think one of the latter models in 1978 even had a weapon in the space station that the Soviets hid that could destroy an enemy satellite at that point. Shown there, you can't read that, but that's kind of a depiction of the components on the typical Salyut station. On the right, lower right, you see a picture of the Salyut, which was one that came along later. They had various editions, and the Soviets never said, oh, we have military space stations. They said, oh, we have peaceful space stations in orbit, and they hid the fact that there were really military versions. They weren't that large, not as large as the International Space Station, but they were significant. Here's the Skylab. That was in 1975. The U.S. used one of the last, or actually the last, Apollo surviving Saturn V vehicle to put the Skylab into orbit. While that was going on the right, the Russian Mir means peace, and this was now Russian, not Soviet Union, and that was in orbit for 12 and a half years. The occupation was 20 times as long. In other words, Skylab was only occupied for like, less than a year. And here the Russian Mir was occupied for like 18 years. Excuse me, it was occupied for 12 years, so that was longer than the Skylab. Here's a depiction of the space stations in orbit today with the habitable volume. The Tiangong is the Chinese station. That's a lot smaller than the International Space Station. The pressurized volume, the key point here is the habitable volume. That's a lot less than the pressurized volume, but it's still significant. The International Space Station, this is a wondrous station. Its pressurized volume is over 1,000 meters cubed, and there shows all the modules and the parts of it. Here's a depiction of the parts. There's the different systems and subsystems, and I described these in a publication I did regarding the space station. But there it is. I won't describe all of these. We don't have time, but it's there and shows you I think there was like 16 major modules, and then each one of those had submodules and parts. Tiangong is the Chinese station. It's a pretty good station. It has solar arrays. China was not allowed to put their own, to participate in the International Space Station. I'm sorry about that, but that's a government decision that the U.S. government, the international community, I guess, made. But Tiangong is capable. It's still in orbit. On the bottom right there, on the bottom of the station, you see the Soyuz Soyuz vehicle mated to the space station. Future space stations. Now I'm going to go in and quickly describe these. Axiom Station. There's several contractors that actually are right now developing and will soon be flying space stations that were developed by the commercial space sector. This is the Axiom. You can just glance at that and see its phase deployment. The HAB-1 is going to be put in orbit, they say, later this year. Might not happen until 2027, but we'll see. Then they have HAB-2, which is a second habitation module. They're going to have large Earth viewing windows, high volume research, space research and manufacturing. So you're going to start seeing research and manufacturing now, starting like in a year or two with the commercial sector. So that's and then there's some other partnerships they have with State Selenia Space in Italy, and so on. Here's a depiction of the station. It's well, actually, the first section is 2027. And there is it'll house people, production that shows the inside of the station. On the right side is shown a depiction of the exterior of the Axiom Space Station after it's completed. They're first just going to launch one small module on the right one of those modules in 2027, but eventually the whole space station will look like it's shown there probably after the year 2032 or so. Here is shown the different modules, and you'll see there how they progressively add and keep adding, and eventually it's a free-flying large station with research and manufacturing and an Earth observatory there on the right-hand side of this slide. So this is another picture of it. I wasn't able to find out how much pressurized volume it'll have, but it'll be pretty big. It won't be 1,000 meters cubed like the International Station, but it'll be at least, maybe half or 2/3 the size. And there's the solar arrays depicted there. It's in orbit around the Earth. NASA is also funding some commercial stations that they're listed there. I'm not going to go through all of these. The bottom line here is that in 2020 they started to provide funding for habitable commercial modules, and that's going on to the present time. They go through a phased approach. They down selected there in 2023 some major partners, commercial partners. They funded those. They provided a modified agreement. They down selected the 2 major commercial stations, and then they're continuing now to provide phase 2 funding to get these stations developed and flown. Vast Space is the second one. Besides Axiom Space is one of the bigger ones. They're developing the Haven 2 station, and it's going to have those attributes there. It's a Haven 1 design system engineering testing partnerships. It's working with NASA again on a Space Act agreement. The goal is to serve as a venue for research, development, and private astronaut missions. There's a picture of it. You notice the first module is very small, but it's designed to succeed the ISS when they put all these different modules on there and have it be, they say it's going to be over 1,100 meters cubed, fully constructed in 2032, like I told you earlier. Blue Origin has their own station. They're envisioning a mixed-use business park for research, industrial, and tourist activities. They're going to have the space station infrastructure. It's going through the phases of it'll utilize the Blue Origin New Glenn reusable launcher. They completed their SRR, which is System Requirements Review, a few years ago. And now they're including other partners, Sierra Space, with their Dream Chaser. That's a orbital spacecraft that Sierra Space developing, Boeing, Redwire, and so on. Then Orbital Reef, which is shown on this slide, is a big station, much, its first module schedule launch in 2027. They hope to operate it before 2030. Some of those modules are inflatable. The ones in the middle there, the ones that you see the inflatable structures, they look like big cylindrical objects, and they're going to use it for mission and business. So on the right-hand side, so you're probably going to see new space startups that will occupy these modules and then develop their capabilities and become competitors in the space arena. This is another picture of it, first module schedule. So it's they envision its pressurized volume to be 830 meter cube, which is 8/10 as big as the International Space Station. And here's another, this is Sierra Space. They're one of the partners, and they have their own life habitat, the large integrated flexible environment habitat. It's going to be used on Orbital Reef, and I don't know that this will happen, but they have envisioned a huge Life 5000. Right now, they're just operating with Life 10, but the number designates the number of meters cubed of habitable, of pressurized volume. So these habitable stations, they're safe. They have multiple layers of protection against meteorite impacts. They're not going to deflate in orbit, not easily, because they can be fixed. If a puncture happens, it will self-heal if it's small. If it's large enough, it can be repaired by the occupying astronauts in space. Starlab is the third one I want to talk about. It's a 2028 targeted replacement. The space companies see that the station is going to be deorbited, we think, in 2030. I wouldn't be surprised if it's delayed to 2032, but let's say 2030. That's coming up real fast. So companies are racing to develop their replacements for the International Space Station. So Starlab, again, 2027 to 28. This is high tempo, commercial focused operations. And I think, yeah, there it is. There's a picture. It's about less than half the size of the International Space Station. And there's a picture of it. Now the multi-purpose space cruiser. I'm doing a paper with Werner Grandel for the international conference that SRI has this summer. I'm developing, Werner is credited for these. I'm working the bimodal nuclear thermal electric propulsion on the lower left-hand side. This is what I'm adding, and we're going to get to Mars within a few months, not 6 months to 9 months, which is the Hohmann transfer orbit, but within a few months, because these nuclear engines are very powerful, very efficient, and they can do the job. Werner envisions a crew of 12 with 36 passengers, and you see there are the 2 landing vehicles in about the middle of the slide. That's for landing on the surface of Mars. We also envision this station to be used for lunar orbit. That will be a different mission. There's a depiction of the inside. It rotates like a big Ferris wheel. If you look at the back, you see the rotation there on the left-hand side. It rotates around to produce simulated gravity. There's the dimensions. I think it's kind of small, but Werner says that's big enough to avoid the Coriolis effect. So this shows how the astronauts stay on the moon, on the surface. I'm almost done. Oh,
okay.
Here's my conclusion.
I have to interrupt you because in 6 minutes we have the live stream.
Yeah.
Marie-Louise
So,
already left. She wanted to say
no, I
something
got
too.
2 more. Yeah, I'm done. The conclusions, there's economic and commercial benefits, there's scientific and research benefits, and there's exploration and diplomatic benefits. And that concludes my slides.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So much. It was really, really interesting. It was a nice overview about space stations. Marie-Louise left already. I'm really sorry for this. I had prepared a 2 minutes presentation, but I think, Bernard, I have no time for this anymore too, no?
Oh, it's okay. No, if you prepare
Yes?
something, no,
Okay,
that's
then
fine, because
I
the
share
event
the
is really 7:30. Very full.
I share the screen, and I hope
Yeah.
my cat will give me.
And then we should try to
Just
get
one,
a
sorry.
concluding statement from everybody before we move to the live stream of NASA.
Okay.
Yeah.
One comment on the Walter on the beautiful presentation.
Yeah.
Many space stations, but nobody's thinking about rotating for simulated gravity.
That's right.
I think we are the only ones thinking about that with your project with Werner Grandel for a space cruiser having rotating modules, and Island Zero by Jerry Stone. So okay.
Yeah.
We will discuss this at our Congress. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
Can we get other slides?
I would like to give a big shout out to Margaret Hamilton. She wrote the script to the moon, or to go to the moon. And I would like to lose some words in honor to her. She was called the rope mother and software pioneer. Also perhaps the most famous of the woman behind Apollo is Margaret Hamilton. She was born in 1936. And the mathematician was a young employee at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and near Boston when she joined the space program almost by chance. Hamilton, who was practically self-taught in programming, rose quickly through the ranks and became director of Apollo flight computer programming. She was responsible for developing onboard flight software used for navigation during the lunar flight and for landing. Computer technology was still in its infancy, and the astronauts had a mere 72 kilobytes of computer memory available on board. By comparison, modern smartphone with 64 gigabytes has 1 million times more storage space, and we have more gigabytes on our phone. Programmers had to use paper punch cards to feed information into room-sized computers without a screen. And for the Apollo mission, a different form of storage was used. Hamilton's program was threaded onto ropes. Many seamstresses in Waltham near Boston worked by hand to transform the software into hardware. Tiny iron rings were strung like beads on a cord onto a copper wire, and the zeros and ones of the program were in effect translated using the principle of punch cards. These heavy, extremely robust storage media were called ropes, and Hamilton was a rope master. And the first software engineer Hamilton in action in the Apollo space capsule Hamilton coined the term software engineering and developed concepts for asynchronous software and priority-driven task execution, which form the basis for a modern, highly reliable software architecture. And she did not rely on single all-encompassing digital control system, but rather on a
Sorry
balanced,
to interrupt you. Sorry. NASA,
balanced interplay of hardware, software, and human. The pilots could interrupt the automated system and take control at any time. The revolutionary concept was called man in the loop, and Hamilton coined the term software engineering and developed concepts for autonomous software and priority-driven task execution, forming the foundation for a modern, highly reliable software architecture. A 1969 photograph of the young programmer with a stuck printout of the Apollo guidance computer software, which nearly towers over her, has become almost iconic today. It later emerged that the Apollo 11 lunar module Eagle almost aborted its landing at the last second because the onboard computer reported an error. However, the error wasn't with the software, which was simply indicated that the unplanned activation of an additional radar system would limit its processing power. The program was reporting the impending overload, ignoring the additional data and concentrating on its core task, the landing maneuver. Houston accordingly instructed his astronauts to disregard the reported error code 1202 and proceeds with the landing. As a working mother, Hamilton occasionally brought her young doctor to her working place at the instrumentation laboratory at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
the live stream has started. Sorry.
Yes. So
okay.
let's stop it there because I think we have plenty of time to
But I
celebrate
wanted to
Margaret
mention her
Hamilton.
because
Yeah.
she
I mean,
was the mother of
let's focus on the generation. So let's pay tribute to Margaret Hamilton, but hopefully we must have many Margaret Hamilton of this generation. And I would like that before we move on to the live stream, let's have a 30-second statement from each of you so that we encompass and we close our event, and then we can move to the live stream. So we start to have some the live stream is being shown. Yes, very good, excellent. And but on top of the live stream, let's allow some people to make some statement as a conclusion of our event.
Yes, I would like to thank you, all of you, for joining our event. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm very excited. And I think we should listen now to the live stream.
Yeah,
And
it's not so much to listen, not so much to listen, because
okay.
it's
I
mostly images and so on. It's fine, but
and
I
I
think
wanted
let's
I
also give the okay, last opportunity for
yes.
our board members to make a
Yes,
statement
I
after
also
this event.
wanted to mention that in 1 hour we have our, no, in 2 hours we have our webinar.
Excellent.
So who wants to sit longer? We have
Yeah,
something more to offer.
yeah,
Okay.
excellent. Yeah,
I would like to say something if
yeah.
possible.
Mary is
Yeah, okay,
our
because for me, the Artemis II is truly a pioneering thing for technology, but especially also for humanity. I've met the first woman, Christine Koch, in Dubai and several times at AICs, and I also met Victor Glover. So for me, it was like, oh my God, I know the two people who are now
excellent.
there in space. So I'm following everything that's possible. I also know that they woke up 2 hours ago and they had a nice breakfast. They could choose between sausages, couscous with nuts, a muffin with syrups, oat with apple and cinnamon, scrambled eggs, strawberry, and the salad with mango. And I was really thinking, okay, when they're now having this breakfast, what will go in their minds? Because it's now in about 40 minutes or so that there will be not any possible contact with Earth anymore. So I'm really excited. That's what I want to say.
Excellent. Good to bring this element of humanity to everything, to this event. So, and I think that it would be nice also to have some emotional statement from our board member. So, what do you feel at the moment? We talked a lot about techniques and info. So, Alberto, founder of Space Renaissance International, what do you feel? Or Gary? Yeah,
I think
after.
it
Yeah.
is a very interesting moment, as I said in my initial statement. The importance is being there again after so many years. So it's very exciting to see this. After I had to wait because I watched all the original Apollo TV broadcasts, and then after so many years, I can see someone going around the moon again. It's a very interesting moment. I
Excellent.
hope that they can go faster to reach the surface of the moon.
Okay, 30 seconds for Gary now. And let's, if you can unmute, yes. And then I'll ask Joe, Edgar. Suzanne has joined us also. We'd like to hear Suzanne. So, Gary, you want to say something? Okay. So let's give the word to Suzanne because she has joined us and she's an important voice from this Artemis event generation. Suzanne?
Bernard, I could make a quick comment.
Yeah. So let's get Suzanne if you can talk because we have not heard Suzanne. Otherwise, okay, Edgar.
No, thank you, Bernard. No, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think we want to underestimate the profoundness of this for humanity. I think this has meaning across, I would argue like 3 levels of analysis. One, I think it means a lot individually for many of us who are part of the space enterprise. I think there's an individual component here, and I think many of the astronauts who've also journeyed into the space domain have had profound experiences, right? I think it's transformative at a personal level in many, many ways. It advances us as a spacefaring civilization. And I think it says something also at the level of the way in which we organize ourselves on Earth, right? With countries and states and nations. I think it shows us that we can cooperate to do great things together, despite our geopolitical conflicts and our wars. We can come together as a human species and do incredible things interact with the cosmos, become a space exploration species. And I think lastly, it means something in terms of, our advances into the cosmos. Ultimately, as I mentioned earlier, I think our future is tied to becoming a spacefaring civilization. And I think this time around, hopefully it's not like Apollo, right? The story is we do become one and we establish a permanent presence. And I think Artemis is reminding us of this. And I think we're on that journey. I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Excellent. So it's okay, like Apollo 8 was a really big revelation. Even if it lasts only 10 days, Artemis II hopefully is going to unleash energy and for all humanity also to take part. So, okay, we saw some images there actually that
maybe Joe want to say something. Joe Pelton.
Joe, excellent, Joe.
I really see this in a historical context. I actually am probably one of the few people who worked on Apollo 11. I worked on the water pump for the lunar excursion module and watched the Apollo landing so many years ago. And also to put it in a historical perspective of that, NASA, when they did Apollo, they had a huge amount of funding. A large percentage of the national budget, and they had many, many more tests than we have had with the Artemis, that there were so many more test flights before there was the lunar landing. Rusty Schweikert, a good friend of mine, was Apollo 9, and they had some key things that they had to work out from the Apollo 9 in terms of safety. And we do need to realize that this is a risky business, and we really need to pray that everything goes smoothly, because people are now united in this spirit. But if something goes wrong, things could go very badly in terms of public sentiment. So I do hope that it goes well.
Yeah, that's true. But it's true that we have also to be more effective in terms of how we use our new technology. Even if we have 7 times less budget compared to the federal budget, still things could be even more optimized. The cost of the SLS is very high, so there are also there are some alternatives. So yeah, that's part of the debate also, that this event can trigger so that we do better.
And I would just like to say, I think there could be a much more efficient architecture where you could just take the astronauts to the low Earth orbit and then take the human landing system up to and join after being refueled and go directly to the moon. And this could be much more cost effective. But there really are these safety concerns, and that we really do need to be concerned. I have a major concern about the delay or possible cancellation of the gateway, which is broadband communication to the South Pole. And I really don't know with the stopping of the gateway how they will have effective, safe broadband communications to the South Pole. So this is a very safety concern I have.
Yeah, so I think we have to see how Gateway comes back in this new landscape. But there are, of course, a lot of backup solutions. If it's just data relay, you can also do it with robotic means. We did it with Chang'e mission to the far side and so on. But yeah, very, very good. Joe, thanks for your statement. In the meantime, we have seen some beautiful images. I know, are some of you good geographer? Can you recognize all the parts of the moon? And you could see an image of the moon that was taken also showing the capsule. And it's very unfamiliar. Maybe did you realize that you can see the dark part, which was Procellarum Ocean, but very much tilted compared to the old image of the moon, and from the angle where now Artemis II is. And that's the angle which now allows them to start looking at some part like for Orientale Basin, is not visible from Earth, but from a spacecraft in orbit, you can see it. And the astronauts started to see this part of the far side. And they will, have the chance also to see with their eyes other part of the far side and even of the poles that the Apollo astronaut didn't see well the poles of the moon. They were mostly in equatorial orbit around the moon. So there will be also opportunity to learn more geography about the moon, which is our 8 continents, of course. So anybody? Yes.
Yes, I want to say something
Yeah,
too.
please.
I think it's very important that we have our Congress in this year.
Excellent.
Year is a very crucial year for many things. We don't know if we can avoid World War III. We hope so, and we see that however humanity is on the road for the moon, and that's very, very important because it means that things happen. However, we are trying to give birth to Gaia. Gaia is trying to give birth to a new solar civilization. And this thing happens because when somebody has to be born, it does. And notwithstanding everything that's happening around. So I think our Congress is important and we have a big responsibility because we are saying something that nobody else say, like the simulated gravity, importance of that, the protection of life from radiation in space is important, and we understand in our research that we are doing for our Congress papers, we see that it is underfunded. All the things that are important for us are underfunded by the agencies. So we have a big important role this year to say to the world these important things that are very, very the key if we think that space, that humanity have to settle in outer space and should start to live there. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? If we are saying things that nobody else is caring about, are we out of the general wave, or is the world that somehow is concentrating on something that's not a very important thing? So I think that if we will be able to make our voice to be heard by many more people, then we can have a role in leading the birth of the solar civilization.
Yeah.
So we have to be aware.
Are you sure?
Of our role.
Adriano, is it enough to think and to talk? We have to go also to the next step, to really observe what the world wants and to talk to those that can go into action. So we have really to partner with some actors that can make some of our ideas and some of our principles become reality. And of course, we have to very much watch what is happening in the world and how we can really show that space is a solution to our problem in the world. So we have really to work on the action side as well, not only thinking and talking. And we have to have some funding as well for ourselves, because the amount of funding needed for this big development, we have also to find some seed money so that we participate to some of the research and the technical development. Yeah.
Can you hear the audio of the live stream, NASA live stream, or not?
We see the audio and we see also the translation.
No, we can't.
Okay, so I have to stop sharing.
Yeah.
I have to stop sharing and restart.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. No, in fact, I have another screen where I follow the NASA TV channel, so at the same time. But it was nice also that you had the transcription, the written transcription of the live stream.
Yeah, I was reading it.
Yes, exactly. So that's in the Netherlands we are used to read subtitles.
Multitasking.
Yeah.
During the lunar flyby today, Orion will provide astronauts with a
So
disk view.
But now you can hear the
Yes,
audio.
we can
right?
hear it.
Okay.
So let's one little thing. It's still, I wanted to toast to this event, Space Renaissance and Artemis II kissing the moon. So I would invite you to take a glass and already celebrate this important moment. And then we can also just watch the nice live stream and take a little break. And in an informal way, everybody is welcome to make some comments. Is that okay? So please take a glass and let's toast.
Here, here, the adventure continues.
I prepare a glass.
Could I ask whether we could get the presentation that was made on all the space station initiatives and
certainly.
cruisers?
So I would like to, I prepared share a toast to the Artemis II team, to NASA and partners, and to Space Renaissance for celebrating this very important historical moment. So if you can all find the opportunity, have a toast.
And it's an important contribution to it as well. It wouldn't be flying without that partnership.
And in the spirit of Space Renaissance, before Adriano brings his electric guitar, let's have our anthem, Fly Me to the Moon. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let's see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. He knows the words.
In other words, I don't know the rest. I still love you, I think.
Voilà, so that's for our event. Now I think we can become informal and watch the live stream. And if you are welcome also to make some comments and watch the event. It might be slow, what is in the live stream, but I think we could learn and share this moment as well. And at 9 o'clock, we have the Space Renaissance webinar as well. So I suppose we can take an informal break and just follow the live stream. And I'm also following the news in other media channels to see how the world react to this very important Artemis II event. I want to thank you all for celebrating it with the Space Renaissance International. It's important that we accompany these big milestones and to show that even if we have vision for the future, we can build on what is happening
We are now
now.
36 minutes
Thank you
until
very much.
the Integrity crew passed the Apollo 13 distance record. And joining me on console, I have Julie.
Yeah, we see the screen of Adriano with emails from Frank and whatever.
Excellent. And we are breaking the record of the furthest distance even reached by humanity. The Apollo 15, this was a record that was established at 400,000 kilometers. Now they are passing this limit, and they will even go 6,000 kilometers beyond this 400,000 kilometers.
I thank you. I thank everyone to joining us.
Yeah,
For
okay.
joining us, I have my space cat here, Alenka.
Excellent.
Jo, meine Süße. And I wish you all a nice evening.
Excellent.
And
Oh, let's
let's
need
see
a
at the
good group
webinar.
picture. We need to make a good group picture, yes, as well.
Group picture. Du musst noch
Yes,
mal kurz
everybody,
Alenka.
put your camera.
Picture.
Yeah. Cheers.
You took the picture?
Yes, okay. Who
You
takes
sent
a
me
good
one?
picture? Yes, okay. Who takes a good picture? Oh, I take one.
Yeah, take one.
But yes. And we will compare our picture. Yeah. Excellent.
You took it?
Yes, good. Yeah, excellent. Okay, all the
Okay,
best.
thank you so much.
Okay, thanks to our moderator. Thanks, Adriano, for organizing this special Space Renaissance event. And for all of you board members that could express. And eventually, what would be nice, if you would have like a one-sentence quote that you would like to leave, we could eventually put that in a communique that we can release after tonight. Yeah, and then we can show our Space Renaissance reaction to this historical event. All the best.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care.